I've heard people say things like, if we could only make the world better, antinatalism would no longer be relevant. But what they don't seem to mention is how they plan on accomplishing the task of making things better. As I've said before, the average person has very little power to change things significantly. The ruling class make the big decisions, and all the rest of us can do is hope for the best. Imagine there is a large bus, and all of humanity are riding it together. The direction the bus takes is primarily chosen by a relatively small group of people that possess the greatest amount of monetary influence. Everyone else is just along for the ride. It's always been that way, really. Since the agricultural revolution, there have always been those who possess great power over large groups of other people. It doesn't matter what you call them, warlords, kings, queens, emperors, pharaohs, or presidents, governments or large corporations, groups of people that will move society in the direction that benefits them the most. So the commoners and peasants of the world have had very little say in the overall direction in which the big bus of humanity moves in. Which leads me back to my point. We are literally at the mercy of groups of individuals that care absolutely nothing for us and our well-being, and will sell your lives, hopes, and dreams, and the future of your children's lives and well-being in a moment's notice in order to serve their goals. They are the ones driving the bus, and we are only the passengers, willing or unwilling. So why not just continue to have children anyway? Well, because the people that are driving the bus are psychopathic monsters that are driving it right off the edge of a cliff and taking the rest of humanity with them. So how about we take a good look at the future that most people are so willing to throw their children right in the middle of? First off, let's take a quick look at the money-driven world your future children will have to survive in. It's no secret that I'm not a big fan of capitalism, but do you really enjoy living in the everyone out for themselves, survival of the richest, step on everyone else's back in order to get ahead type of world that capitalism has given us? There are many people that argue that this incredibly flawed, outdated system is the best that we can do, and despite it being prone to corruption and all the inescapable misery that it brings, it's still better than feudalism or communism. Although I don't plan on discussing what is the best economic system that we could have, at least not in this video, I will point out a few things that your future children will be forced to contend with. Number 1. School. Now this doesn't apply to every country since some countries have far better school systems, but the American school system from which I have first-hand experience is completely broken. And even if your child somehow manages to survive the inadequate educational system, with all of the bullying and bad socialization and other traumas they can experience, they are still expected to continue their brainwashing, education, by furthering their schooling, but this time at their own expense. That's right. Even if your child works their ass off from grade 1 through 12 trying to do everything right and getting the best grades that they are capable of and obeying all the rules, they are still expected to go back to school again, but this time incur a huge financial debt in the process. Although it varies from school to school, most college tuitions have increased nearly 200% since the early 90s. Kids today have far more stress to contend with than their parents and grandparents ever did. As if life wasn't already stressful enough by itself, they also have the added burden of dealing with the expectations of their family and that of society. It's no wonder that depression rates are so high among high school and college-age students. Okay, say your future kids have managed to claw their way through all of their schooling and are now ready to go out into the world to start their lives. Little do they know the pain has just begun. Now it's time for them to toil away the rest of their lives in servitude until they die, doing what society calls a job. After all, they're going to need something to pay off that huge college debt they just got saddled with. Now, careers are a little different. People do them with the promise of future prosperity dangling in their face like a carrot on a string, pushing them along day by day. Some people grow to like their careers, others don't. Some reach a state of familiarity and contentment that helps them get out of bed every morning to face the same shit another day. Now, jobs, that's another story. The biggest majority of people hate their jobs and only do them to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Jobs may as well be the modern equivalent of slavery. Some will argue that jobs are not like slavery because if a person does not like their job, they can simply get up and leave anytime they want. Well, perhaps, but it's not quite that simple. Sure, you can get up and leave your job, especially if you like living under a bridge and eating your breakfast out of a garbage can. Like slavery, people are not given a choice. They are forced to participate in this money game simply to survive, especially if a person has a family, because they are often forced to work a job they hate just to try and support their family. This is another reason for young people not to have children, because not having children gives them more options if they ever find themselves in a shit hits the fan scenario. The people that have less will lose less. Your future kids will have to endure much more than just being forced to participate in an outdated economic system. The inevitable results of climate change and the continuing and growing struggle of inequality, both racial and economic, the continuing political instabilities, and the slow but steady unraveling of Western society. Oh yeah, and there's probably going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2050. So yeah, your potential future children will have all that to look forward to. This is the world that you decided was a good idea to bring them into. As I have stated before, the average person has very little choice of how the future will unfold, but what they can do by simply not having children is to prevent future individuals from having to endure the dark dystopic world of misery that we seem to be headed for at an ever-accelerating rate. Continuing with the bus analogy, antinatalists are the individuals trying to keep new passengers from getting on the bus and thus preventing and protecting them from having to experience the harm and suffering that those individuals already riding the bus have to endure. Look, I'm not saying that we're helpless as a society and we should just lay down and accept defeat. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you don't get to choose what kind of future world your children are going to grow up in and the things they have to experience and endure. Despite your best efforts, you can't guarantee that they'll be okay and they'll have a good life. A life worth living. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you're in good health and had a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time. Bye.